obviously you're not a golfer.
I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pay.
We have heard the chimes at midnight, Master Robert.
You're an inanimate fucking object! You told I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Who the fuck has the goddamn gall to call his house on a Tuesday night? God!
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another edition of Three for Three. This week we have a very interesting episode. It's our first non-special episode in a while, so we have a very eclectic group of films here, each very different than the other. That are each going to be fun to talk about. I am your host this week, Jackson Workman, and I am joined by my two chums, Mr. Matthew Patterson and Mr. Samuel Holler. And Mr. Patterson, you were in a different location this week.
I am. I am now in my new place in Colorado Springs. If there's any listeners that are there, please do not come and find me at all. I do not wish to be found. But yeah, doxing shall go on. I am in an undisclosed basement. That is where, as far as we're gonna get. Uh, but I finally am no longer just in a blank bedroom. I now have my movies and records surrounding me. Thank God.
Yeah, and Sam is now on the opposite side of the room. I'm the only one with the same backdrop. I got to do something next time to try to fix this up. But I did come prepared today to talk about one of the films. I have my Orpheus Descending shirt on. So I guess with that being said, we'll go ahead and start with that one. That was Sam's pick, Black Orpheus. And take it away, good sir.
Well, first off, happy Black History Month. Black Orpheus is a 1959 film that is historic for many reasons. For Black culture, I know a lot of um, people within the film community have talked about this film and whatnot, and as an adaptation of the tale of Orpheus, that I find this film very loose, but I will dive into that. For those who don't know, the Greek myth from Virgil and Ovid or something like that. The tale is Orpheus is a little player. He's hot shit. He's a sexy boy. He plays his little lute or guitar or lyre, depending on the variation of interpretations you find of this. And he stumbles across his love, Eurydice, and he loves her so much. Like he lives and breathes Eurydice. And she of course dies. And so he must go on the journey to bring her back. But if he turns around and tries to look at her while he's bringing her back, she will be lost to him forever. And so it's a tale of old as time, but have you seen it in Rio de Janeiro Carnival? And that's where we go with Black Orpheus. And very not loose interpretation, it's an interpretation, but like god damn, it's only the last like 20 minutes of this is where like the substance of the story comes into it. Um But the journey we get for the throughout the party that happens in the city and the characters who are all there to do different things for the city and also for themselves and connect with people that they know. Um, we get some pretty good stuff. I really enjoyed it. A lot of goddamn confetti on his jacket that stays there for the first 20 minutes of the movie, which I will talk about confetti getting on someone later, but that's a whole other story. Um, we get an aspect of the kids that I find very interesting that are like looking up to Orpheus or Orfeo in this as per language. Um, but yeah, I don't know how y'all felt about it. I really enjoyed it. It's very colorful, very well shot, very um forward with its story and the people that are in it, and there's no like kind of hidden situation going on. It's very straightforward. It's not like something that's like an oh aha kind of moment, but when it starts getting to the story, if you know it, you start to find interesting things like the costuming choices for the characters when those certain moments are happening and that kind of stuff. So
Matt?
I felt kind of similar. Like I thought it was really well shot and stuff, but I was kind of like, okay, like sometimes I was just like, all right, now where are we gonna, can it go forward? I guess is kind of how I felt. But I knew that they, all right. I don't know if you guys watch this on Max with the little TCM opening. So like,
I didn't see the opening, but
yeah, did watch it on Max though.
yeah, me too.
huh? Yeah, there's this like lady, I can't remember her name. She did like a little like Ben Mankiewicz thing, where they stand there and be like, this is, the director's blah blah blah. And apparently they just kind of shot like Carnival, and then they also shot this separately and kind of mixed stuff together, had them just walking through, which kind of made sense. Um, but
I know
yeah,
the lead
I felt
actor is
bad for being kind of like, not bored, but I'm just kind of like waiting, because I thought it was well shot, but I was kind of like, damn. Also, one thought I had, which I haven't looked this up, so I have no idea. This is just a thought. Is this like the first black exploitation film where they just took the name of the original and then just threw black in front of it? Because technically, it's probably not necessarily a black exploitation film, but I'm just thinking like because they had Orpheus in the 50s, I saw, and so they just went, well, we're gonna call this one Black Orpheus. Then there's a Black Godfather.
Maybe so. Maybe
There's
this
like
is a trendsetter in that way.
I don't think there was a Narcissus before that, before Black Narcissus, but
Well, Black Narcissus was before this, but
yeah.
that has nothing to do with, I mean, like there are no black
That
people
was
in
a
that
joke.
movie.
'Cause
Um,
that one starts with Black
yeah.
Narcissus, but that was a joke. But yeah,
a lot of
so
this
I
movie.
thought because I was just like, did that they just do that? You know, I have no idea,
That's
but
a good question because I honestly felt like it came down to the cultural and language barrier interpretation is why it's called Black Orpheus. I feel like in its language, it's just Orpheus. And so,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because I didn't know there was an Orpheus that was in the 50s, and
Jean Cocteau, or however the fuck that's pronounced.
oh yeah,
Jean
this
Jean
dude,
Cocteau, is that what you said?
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because this dude's last name it looked like Camus, but it's actually Camus.
Fucking French and their unnecessary fucking letters. It's so stupid. But yeah, so this one from I just got done watching it like an hour or so ago. So it's pretty fresh in my head. And Matt, I pretty much totally agree with you on this one. Very well shot, which I appreciated. And there were definitely like whenever we were in more of like the story part of the movie, I enjoyed it. But yeah, there were as the movie went on, it definitely got more and more just like okay, and we're just dancing and we're dancing and we're dancing and when is something gonna fucking happen? Like, and it didn't bother me as much at first. Because I was like, okay, they're just establishing like atmosphere and the vibes are nice and all that good stuff. And then, yeah, towards the end, I was like, okay, this like the dancing was actually kind of starting to test my patience a bit. But yeah, and for me, again, even in spite of that, I was still with it because I liked the characters, I liked the story. I thought it was very gorgeously shot the whole way through. So, hell, it was fun seeing them party and dance and everything. The
Kind of
thing,
creepy. Oh, sorry, cut you off.
what?
It's kind of creepy that both the main actors died months apart from each
Yeah,
other.
like really close. That is pretty wild.
And
And
decades later.
apparently, I also found this out because of that TCM opening. The only actor that had acted more than once was the girl who played Eurydice. Everyone else was their like first
Yeah,
time.
the dude who played Orpheus was like, I think like a soccer player or something. Like the director just like found him in the street and said, "You want to be in a movie?" So that's pretty crazy. The dude who played the skeleton guy was like an Olympic like runner or something or some kind of athlete. So But but for me, like the last 20 minutes of the movie is when it kind of fell apart for me because at that point, first of all, it got to be a bit too much with the dancing. Like when they're just in the place and the girl is like having the getting possessed and having the seizure or whatever. I was like, what are I feel like we should be addressing the fact that his lover just died and we're not taking the time. We're just more dancing, more merriment, and they get to it eventually, but not until after like 7 to 10 minutes of more dancing, and I'm just like, God bless, like so it makes sense that they shot it during a real festival and just kind of tried to incorporate the plot into it. That makes sense. That's kind of the vibe that comes off. And for me, I could not get over the fact I'm like, why did he flip that switch? He
Yeah.
killed her. I was like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, what? Literally, why did that happen? Why did he do that? I could not get past that. I was like, why? Why? I thought that was so stupid. I was like, he electrocute like, do you not know how power lines work, bro? Like, why did you flip that switch? What did you think was gonna happen when you flipped that switch? I was like, man, the fucking skeleton guy didn't even need to kill her. I mean, this idiot did it for him. It was so stupid. And but I will say also, as a former Orpheus killer myself, I did the play Orpheus Descending, where I got to kill the Orpheus I was the bad guy in that show. And as a former Orpheus killer, I give props to the fiance lady. She did a good job hitting him with that rock. Game recognized game on that front.
His ankle fucking gave way so quick.
Yeah, no kidding.
That shit just rolled and he flipped off.
Fucking Limp Biscuit just kept rolling. But yeah, it was definitely a very lively, energetic. Like I had a fun enough time for most of it. It really wasn't until the end when I kind of started losing patience with it. But I thought again, like I thought all the parts with the skeleton guy, I thought were very like suspenseful and creepy, and that costume just looked creepy. And the fact that I don't think we ever saw his real face, so it kind of made it even creepier. Just like who the fuck is this guy? And him chasing her all over the place and stuff. And
I like her cousin's boyfriend where he's like, I don't know your cousin. Like, and she's just like,
See, I like those parts. I like the moments of character interaction. Like, yeah, those two characters like arguing all the time. That was funny. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, what was I gonna say?
never unanimous on this though, because I very much was like, when is this going to get to the goddamn killing of her, and when the fuck is he gonna go to hell to bring her back?
Yeah, I
And
thought I was gonna be alone in this, but yeah, I'm glad we all kind of feel the same way about that. And it's funny too, because as a little tease for a movie we're going to talk about next week, this is yet another movie shot in a Hispanic country, directed by a French guy, where apparently, just like the one we're going to talk about next week, the people from Brazil apparently don't like this movie very much because of the way it depicts them. But which I guess, I can see, like I understand why they because I was reading about it and they said they thought like it just portrayed them, it just exoticized them too much and made them look like all they do is dance and party and do all kinds of stuff like that, and it's a little too, and I'm like, I understand that, but at the same time I
That
don't.
is all they
during
do.
Carnival, so like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like for one thing, it's set during like a time of high festivities, so it makes sense why that's all that they would be doing. And for another thing, as people have pointed out, you know, it's not really meant to be completely realistic. It has kind of like a, I don't know, a slight fantastical edge to it, where I don't think it's meant to be necessarily the most realistic depiction of everyday life in Brazil. Like, it's kind of got an elevated kind of fantastical quality about it. So I think, and again, it makes sense. Like they're all preparing for the festival, so it makes sense why they'd be partying so much. But you know who doesn't like this movie? who I read,
Ooh.
motherfucking Barack Obama does not like this film I was reading. So I thought that was hilarious. I was reading, he apparently gave some quote about it way back when, and I was like, damn, Obama doesn't like this movie. That's crazy. But and again, like it's one of those deals where I can see like I can definitely see where people are coming from with that, but I personally don't think like to me there's nothing like offensive about the way they portray Brazil in this. It's more just like and again it makes sense why they're partying so much. And I didn't see it as like and again like to me the the only problem with that was there was just too much of it. It was just like because it detracted from the story.
That's where at first it was very much like things were happening during it, like when they got married and he came out and she was all dancing with all the dudes and he was like not about it, and like it added to the story and the character development and who these people were and their lives and everything. But then towards the end it was just like, oh, this is the festival, and it's just shots of the festival and everyone going crazy, and then it would start to sprinkle it in towards the end, but by that time it was like cut to where the police are arresting people who party too hard, and you get like even more interesting information, but then that's gone and frustrating. I do have a side tangent of a side tangent, if y'all will indulge me. But the opening when he's driving the bus to the station and there's just all those people hanging off and everything, made me think of The Room. And on that note, I'm not going, but if I could after this, Greg Sestero is in Greensboro showing The Room with a Q&A for really
He's
cheap.
he's gonna be in fucking Colorado Springs in like a week
Damn. Okay.
doing the same shit.
Well,
I
now I
That's
feel snubbed.
almost
What the
gonna
fuck did I ever
go.
do to you, Greg Sestero? Come to where I am. Come on. What the fuck is that about?
I almost was like, I'm gonna go, but I'm not. That means I would have to like push, like rushing through the episode, and I don't want to do that.
fuck it. I mean, I mean, that's like a once in a lifetime
I
thing.
wouldn't blame you, honestly, if you did, to
Yeah.
be completely honest.
That's
That
like
would be fun as
that,
fuck to go to.
yeah. No, there's a thing in Colorado Springs also happening. You guys know the movie Trolls 2 where the dude goes, "Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, of
my
course.
God." They're
Yeah.
showing that with the guy in Colorado Springs, and I'm gonna go meet
No
him,
way.
do a video
Damn.
or of doing the oh my God shit. Because it's only $50 for a signed poster and a meet and greet, plus the
That's
movie.
insane. Wow.
I was like, what? So
That's
Nilbog.
amazing.
It's goblin spelled backwards.
God,
You can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
You
But
need you need to bring up the movie Sis to him because that movie is insane, and
I
he's
will.
great in it.
well, that's wow. Those are both things I would love to go to
You
just for the
should.
fun of it. Especially, God, I would kill to meet Greg Sestero and like watch The Room with him. That would be so much fun. But but speaking of people riding on the sides of cars. I don't know what the shot of the skeleton guy riding on the side of the ambulance cracked me the fuck up. I just like I don't know why. It just looks so funny. The idea that they're just letting him he didn't kill her because Orpheus killed her because he's a fucking idiot, but
Yeah.
like he just tried to kill her, I guess. And the fact that they're like letting him ride on the side of the ambulance with her to the morgue was just hilarious. I was like, my man's hitching a ride. He wants to make sure that she's dead. But yeah, it's and again I thought like really the two I would say the two biggest strengths in the movie again are the cinematography and I really liked a lot of the character interactions. I liked, you know, the like like we were talking about the interactions between the cousin and her idiot boyfriend. Those were funny. I liked when Orpheus was talking to the little kids. I thought that was a nice like talking about making the sunrise by playing the guitar.
To to life.
So what?
Sings the sun to life, and then
Yes.
they're all ready for it when he's singing to her, and his love for her is what brings the sunrise.
And I liked the interactions between Orpheus and Eurydice. I like the interactions between like that scene. That was a very tense scene where the fiance tears up the scarf and is like, I'll kill that bitch if I see her again. Just all her scene. And I just have to say, the fiance was okay. I grant you she was a bit high maintenance, but did she really do that much wrong? Like in this,
Mira's great.
like, say what?
Mira is great. It
Yeah, I
definitely
mean, like
is
towards
like
the end, I don't approve of her trying to kill Eurydice and ultimately killing Orpheus. Maybe I just have sympathy for her because I am a fellow Orpheus killer as well. Maybe I just relate to her a little too much. I'm a little biased, but
Also
I
high
don't think
maintenance.
for the most of the movie she was doing that much wrong, just personally.
Are you trying to defend her
I say.
toxicity, Jackson?
So what?
I said, are you trying to defend her toxicity, Jackson?
Hey,
Are you
hey,
saying you're also high maintenance? Are you a high maintenance Orpheus killer?
you bet your ass I am. You bet
hey,
your ass I am.
that was a piece of shit move he did, playing the guitar for her and then having the kid pretend to be the one playing the guitar when his fiance comes in because she's looking for him. That shit's fucked.
Yeah.
There.
Um, but yeah, again, just like perfectly fun movie. Like a lot of great things to admire about it. Part of it definitely just felt like, it could have used a little more plot. I feel like if you cut the dancing scenes out, it would only have been 45 minutes long, but yeah, but definitely a good time for sure. Like it was something I was like, okay, that was interesting. I appreciated seeing like this kind of take on the story. Because there have been all different kinds. But yeah, I guess the moral of the story is if you and I say this not unbiased as an Orpheus killer. Um, if you cheat on the spouse, you get killed and thrown out the house. So
Yeah.
there you go. He got off easy. When I did it, I shot the character. So that was and then had the other one fed to the dogs. So they got off easy. Just saying.
God damn.
Yeah.
Like
Because
if
mine
I
was
was
a
there,
Tennessee
it would have
Williams
gone down
play.
like
So
that.
in Tennessee Williams world, that's how that goes. But so I guess next we will move on to I guess we'll save the most tragic one for the end. And we'll pick Mr. Patterson's film, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. So take it away, good sir.
What up,
It's
Dino?
good. Huh? So my pick this week was the computer wore tennis shoes, starring the illustrious Kurt Russell as a teen, a pimple-faced teen. Goddamn, I never thought I'd see that man's face with a pimple on it, and you do several times. So he is at a like I want to say it's like a tech school, but it's like probably the lowest of the schools in the area, and they get donated this computer or they buy this computer. I
Yeah,
can't quite, pretty sure they buy that shit, but kind of fucked up they didn't just give it to him. What were you gonna say, Sam?
they don't have the money for fuck. Now I just forgot it. But I was and they only have necessities, and that necessity is that goddamn computer.
Yep. And so, and they all hate the dean, who ends up kind of coming around a little bit at near the end ish. Anyways, so it's basically Kurt Russell and his bands of friends all hanging out, and they have this kind of really cool teacher who's trying to teach them science and shit, and use the computer to show them how an iHome works, basically. And eventually, Kurt Russell is there by himself at night, stumbles across a couple wires, knocks some water onto the ground, and of course is stepping in it. And bada bing, bada boom, homeboy is
No
now a
issues
human
though.
computer. Uh, and they find out pretty quickly. One of my favorite, the funny parts to me was when they show like the inside of his eyes and they just cut to the shot of a fucking computer like lighting up. It's like that. They didn't even try to fix it. But it's a Disney movie. One of the earlier Disney movies, meaning that it has quite the array of jokes stretching from just, slapstick humor to kind of adult humor. And the whole movie is him dealing with this fame of being a super smart person and the friendship. And much like one of my previous picks, Grilled, it involves the mafia out of fucking nowhere. Like out of nowhere, just involves the mafia. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it did come out of the blue, and they probably could have even not had it and still had a movie. But still, it made an interesting one. I've been watching quite a few of the Disney ones recently, the older ones, and so to see the Buena Vista thing at or title card at the beginning made me happy because I knew that was going to be a pretty good, pretty solid Disney flick from back in the
So,
day. Not necessarily my like the best, but it is to me enjoyable, and I had a good time. And I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of the just some of the insane things about it. How did you guys enjoy the
Well, first,
computer?
I would also like to point out this is not only the second film on this podcast where the mafia randomly shows up, but also the second one with Cesar Romero as the bad guy after Ocean's 11. So that is,
also our second Kurt Russell movie as well.
oh yeah, he was in Interstate 60. That's right.
Cesar
Um,
Romero was great in this, in my
Yeah.
opinion. He
yeah, he
was
was the standout,
Alex.
one of the standouts acting wise for me. But well, so what do you think, Sam?
um, it was a little hard to get into this for me. I don't know. At first, the Buena Vista that I literally have my notes just Buena Vista and Dino. Um, it was like I am into this, but this is just kind of abrasive and kind of in some weird places that I was just like, okay. But then by literally when he started clicking as like he gets jail broken or bailed out of jail, and he sees that his friends don't even have the money, but they're trying, and that's when I was like, okay, I am really getting into this and where he is and his smarts and his sass as well. And then the fact that when he gets dropped on his head, I'm just like, oh, he's now a broken baby and just has that stutter for the final competition. And it was also very fucking weird because right before I watched this, I watched a movie called Nobody's Baby with Gary Oldman, and the horse that he like has the dude bet on at first is called Nobody's Baby. And I was just like, okay, here we go. And then he's eating that sandwich in class after passing the test, and it's the either the most crunchiest lettuce I've ever heard in my life, or he has like potato chips in his sandwich. I don't
I'm
know.
glad you brought that up because I had that in my head when I watched this. I was like, what sound effect? Because like they I always waited for them to show him put the potato chips in the sandwich or something. I was like, bacon, the lettuce was a good one. I was so confused. Yeah, that was such a loud
That
sound.
crunch, that crunch.
Mhm.
How
Yeah.
would you like y'all sheepdog wrapped? That's my question. I enjoyed it. It was just like it took me a while to get into it, and so it had its ups and downs.
When they show the inside of his brain and they show like the things he's thinking about, and there's that one shot of the girl in a bathtub in a fucking car that is also on a couch.
Mhm.
I just can't imagine the person who made that shit just for one shot. Like they went through the whole pain of that shit. Be like a dream, in his headshot, and him just go.
Yeah.
Very, very true. There were many shots in this film or many moments where, yeah, you're just like, wow, that they had to film something for just that, and just random moments of like, man, I tell you, this just harkens back to the good old days when G-rated movies, had references to Playboy and people shooting guns at children and just all kind, like you said, just shots of women in bikinis in bathtubs. It's just like, yeah, the '60s were a different time for G-rated films, I suppose.
They weren't soft.
So what?
They weren't soft. They were fucking
No,
hard.
no, they were hard as fuck. Even Disney back then was hard as fuck.
Those pansy Disney movies nowadays don't
Yeah,
come
don't
fucking.
even get me started. But
Not even a reason to support the teacher in the new movies, but I was with the teacher the whole way through this time.
yeah, exactly. Um, but so I feel like recently I have been like, I feel bad because in the last episode, I think you could say I was a little bit of a negative Nancy in that one. I said bad things about all three films, and I don't want to be negative, especially I feel like half of Matt's picks that have ever been on this show, I just shit all over. So, I feel bad,
Gotta pick the wild card ones. Gotta pick the
I
wild card.
shat all over Silver Linings Playbook last week, and I want to make it up to you. So instead of saying what I didn't like about this movie, or instead of saying what this movie was, I'm going to say what this movie was not. This movie was not in any way a complete waste of time. This movie was not stupid. This movie was not a movie that felt like it was shot in a week. It was not ridiculous how fucking lazy the scene transitions were. It was not incredibly stupid when they look inside his head and all they see is just the shots of the computer screen. I'm glad you pointed that out because it was very not stupid. I thought it was just not nonsensical at all. How him just holding onto the computer gave him the ability to turn into a supercomputer. At least the Flubber movies had some consistency, but I can't say the same here. This was not. So yeah, it wasn't any of those things. This was a delightful, wholesome, family-friendly time that is a delight for the whole family. So that's me being positive, and not shitting all over this thing that even though it was an hour and a half, felt like it was twice as long. Every time I looked at it, there was still like an hour left in it, and I was like, Jesus Christ, when is this going to be over? That was not my mentality when watching this film, whatsoever. Um, but on a more on a more serious note, it was whatever. For the most part, I was just bored by it. It wasn't even like offensively bad for most of it. It was just kind of like there wasn't a lot of, it felt like a computer wrote the script to me. It was just very just kind of like just things happening and not a lot of coherence and mostly just like I don't know, it felt like the plot kept changing every 5 minutes and just like, okay, now at first it's about, they're trying to stick it to this dean, and now it's about he's a computer and it's about this test, and then it's about he's going on this nationwide tour and everyone's like exploiting him, and then it's about the deans are trying to both get him to sign to their colleges, and then it's about them doing this academic competition, and then it's about him getting in with Cesar Romero, and then it's about him getting kidnapped, and then it's about him going to jail, and then it's about I'm like every 5 minutes the plot kept changing, and I was like, and none of it was particularly interesting, but I will say this though, there were some positives. Sam, I agree with you. Um, that was one scene that I actually really liked, was the part where his classmates were trying to bail him out of jail. I was like, oh, that was a heartwarming moment. I really liked that. And I thought that was I was like, okay, I feel like there are a couple of scenes like that where I'm like, I feel like there's like at points a story or a message that's trying to get out of this movie. The rest of it is just so all over the place that it can't quite ever get there. Like there's that other scene where they're in the jail and the henchman guy is like, Kurt Russell's like, everybody's just out for themselves, aren't they? And he's like, don't you know, kid, that's how it is. Everybody's out for himself. Like they're trying to at points communicate certain things or have some kind of something, but the rest of it is so messy. And then another thing I really liked, Cesar Romero was great. Just acting wise. He was a very intimidating bad guy. And the consistent thing I loved the whole way through, to the point where I kind of just waited for their scenes. The Dean guy was fucking hilarious. I thought he was really his performance was great. I thought he was really funny. I thought and I loved the rivalry between him and the other Dean. Like honestly, I just kept waiting for the two of them to show back up because I just love their constant bickering and trying to get at each other. I was like, okay, this part I'm really vibing with. This is entertaining, and they're both I love the jabs that they're constantly and just it was hilarious how they're in the jail cell still trying to get him to sign the thing and like that was funny, but like
Even with when just the teacher was talking, the other guy had his
Is up in the
thing
corner.
like
yeah.
slipped through the thing.
Yeah,
Did
that
anybody
was
notice the young Ed Begley Jr. at the very end of the movie?
I read that he was in it, but I didn't see him.
Yeah, he's like on the opposite team. And I was sitting there looking at his face, and I was like, I know this dude, so I had to look it up. And I'm just like, wow, he actually, the more I looked at him, I was like, you look the exact same. Like he did not change that much. He still has that, I don't know.
Really
Yeah. If you look at him dead in the eye, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's him.
interesting.
Um,
But yeah, it was definitely again like, and there were there were so many weird things where I'm just like that were kind of funny, but also just really stupid. Like them posing as the painters and just showing up to their house was so stupid, but also kind of hilarious. But what was funny about it to me was just the fact that I thought the whole point was I'm like, why not just immediately go in there? Like they're legitimately just they stay outside painting, and I'm just like you guys can just find an excuse to get inside the house or something. Kurt Russell doesn't try to run. I just love that the gangsters are like just gonna shoot him with all the painters outside anyway. Like that was kind of funny and just yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like just kind of a random, weird sort of not much of a plot because it kept changing every 5 minutes kind of movie. But for the most part, again, it wasn't like one of those movies where I was like angry at it. I was mostly just bored out of my mind for most of it. Aside from those
you
like
know what this movie doesn't have, Jackson?
what?
Rape. You know what I thought this was supposed to be? The no rape special.
Ah, you got me on that one. Yeah, I'll give
I
you.
looked at the idea. I was like, you know what? Let me think about the movie that I could choose that almost 100% not have that shit in it.
Oh,
Trick the thing and said
It's
none. I was like,
you know what it is. I need to study history more. If I had known the historical event that my pick was based off of, I might have known better than to pick this one.
allegedly.
Yes, it has been said in our group chat that some of the movies we've been picking for the last few have been a bit on the rapey side. So we were trying to steer clear of that. And holy shit, did I fail at that this week, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, no, you got me dead to rights on that one. But yeah, but at least that movie was still more entertaining than this one for me. But yeah, again, I was watching it and I really just didn't like it at all, but I felt bad. I was like, am I gonna go on the podcast and shit all over like this little kid's movie? Like, like I felt that's
Yeah, it was kind of nonsensical. Like, I mean, that's what I felt the same way. Like, I was like, yeah, the plot does change like 8 times, but I just kind of stopped caring because I was like, Disney's in the 60s or 70s ish. I'm just gonna let it go.
yeah.
You I'm just gonna. I enjoyed the that we were talking about that kind of like the production value. I will say they don't slouch on that.
No, definitely not. I thought, a lot of the sets were nice, and kind of colorful, but it and again, like that was just kind of my thing was like that's why I chose that bit at the beginning. It's because it's like I don't know, especially since last week I was just so negative on pretty much all the movies. I was just like, you know what? I'll put a fun little spin on this because did I like this at all? No, I thought it was an incredibly boring waste of time. It legitimately feels like they shot it in about 6 or 7 days, but the whole movie, the scene. One thing I couldn't get past was the fucking scene transitions were driving me crazy. Just that quick little, just like cut to the next. Like it was driving me crazy. But yeah, you know, I guess it's one of those movies. I was thinking about it. It's one of those movies that I'm sure there are plenty of kids from that time who it's one of those movies that they watched and they didn't know what it was. They just like it was on TV or something and they just saw it and all these years later they haven't seen it probably since they were kids and they maybe they hear about it somehow and they're like, "Oh my God, that's that movie I watched as a kid. Like I have such fond memories of that thing. I watched it all the time." So really that's kind of what I feel like this movie was meant to be. So in that sense, it's like, okay, at least it's like a nice, probably nostalgic thing for some people, like who grew up in the like late 60s, early 70s, probably. So
Speaking of nostalgia for other people,
yes, a nostalgia for the days when China was free from Japanese occupation. Or rather not, I guess. But yes, so my pick, and I'm very sorry to both of you. I had no idea what I was getting us into this week. Um,
These are the guns that are going in your brain next to the pupil as I pull
I'll
the trigger.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm like the guy at the end who they shot in the street. That's what you're gonna do to me. Um,
guy in the
Hey,
beginning, a shot.
he was a good man, okay? He was a good
he
man.
was a good man. He was a good man. He helped them. But yes, the Flowers of War. It has the word flowers in it. How could it be a possibly? It sounds like a fun movie. You would think, but
Not like it's the flowers of rape or anything.
yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If it was called The Flowers of Rape, then it would be like, okay, that's a bit more of a heads up there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. How
Where's
was I
our
supposed to know?
where's our goddamn disclaimer?
We need a disclaimer. That's the description for this one, is the disclaimer.
It's
Cautioning
rape,
you.
murder, rape during murder, and more rape, and then more murder.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's us
That
talking
is
about
this
this one.
movie.
Sam just summed it up perfectly. But
And then
yeah,
Christian Bale
so
looking at ass.
what?
And Christian Bale looking at some ass.
Absolutely. Most
That's my white savior right there.
Jesus Christ. Um, so yeah, The Flowers of War, which is a Zhang Yimou film from
Oh,
2011. Yes, God bless that man. Um, so it's based on true events. It's set during the Sino-Japanese War. It's in
37.
19, say what?
1937.
1937, China, in the city of, depending on who you ask, Nanjing or Nanking, where the jury's still out on that one. I'm going to say Nanjing. So yeah, in the city of Nanjing, it's based on literally the event, as Sam pointed out to us in the group chat, is called the Rape of Nanjing. So again, if I had even just looked that up, I would have known what we were in for here. Where Japanese soldiers invaded the city and absolutely just destroyed the city and fucking killed every single person in the city and just massacred everybody. It was like hundreds of thousands of people died. It was absolutely atrocious. And so, in the midst of this carnage, um, who shows up but Batman himself, Mr. Christian Bale. And he is a drunken fool, and he is kind of a louse a little bit, and he shows up to this church and he takes refuge in the church along with a bunch of young schoolgirls and some prostitutes who show up eventually. And basically, he poses as a priest in order to help them stay safe and protect them, and tries to work on a way to help get them out, all while the Japanese are doing everything they can to make their lives more difficult, to say the least. Um, so yeah, that's basically the gist of it. Yeah, so it was a very funny experience because um, the other night I'm just sitting here in my room and I get a text from Sam saying, Jackson, I don't know if you comprehend just how fucked up of a movie you picked this week. I think we may need to put a disclaimer. And I said, oh, geez, that sounds really intense. I guess I'll see for myself. And then I get a text the next day from Matt saying pretty much the same thing, that this is very intense. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like, is it as bad as they're saying? Like, surely not. And then I watched it last night, and yep, this is a heavy one. This is a very, very legitimately some of the most disturbing like violence I've ever seen in a film. Like, because it's bad for like from the beginning, they show you, and that's one of the greatest strengths of the film is how brutal It is. They let you know right away just how brutal and desperate this situation is and how ruthless these soldiers are and how willing they are to just like do whatever they want to whoever they come across. Um, and so there are a lot of scenes of very stunning brutality. Like that first scene where they invade the church is just brutal, where they kill a couple of the girls. One of them gets like shot in the neck, and the other one falls over
Yeah,
the
that's
railing.
really
And the
bad.
the shot of the Japanese guy basically just like ripping the flag up and saying, "I'll eat you up," and chasing after them and shit. It's just horrific. And so that's all bad, but legit, and some of the stuff that happens later too, but legitimately, like some of the most, just one of the most disturbing scenes I've ever seen in a film is that part where the two ladies are trying to run from the soldiers and they are just raping the shit out of the one girl, like, and just, I mean, absolutely just and then she bites his ear off basically, and he fucking stabs
Bad.
her, and just like brutal. And they're outside laughing about it and making fun of him for getting bit in the ear, and it's just absolutely just brutal to watch. And I remember that was the point because it was bad already by that point, but that was the point where I was like literally out loud, I said, Jesus fuck, like this is some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. It was just crazy. And but
The fact
so
that they were also like it wouldn't be that bad for her if that other dude hadn't killed the other girl.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's right. Because, yeah, the whole thing, and that's the thing too, is just like the whole thing is, and it also wouldn't have been that bad if it sucks because they could have just stayed hidden, but she wanted to get the string, and that's how they got caught. But you understand why? Because it was really important to her to like play the song for the dying kid and all of that. And it's just the whole situation just sucks so much. And that was one of the interesting things about because I've seen. It's funny because over here in America we don't really know about that situation about like the World War II era kind of Japanese versus Chinese conflict. But it's funny because at this point I've seen in the last few years like at least six movies that have dealt with that subject matter. And so with each one, and one of them we talked about on this show, Ip Man. So and there are others I've seen like The Grandmaster and The Handmaiden and Lust Caution and like all these other movies, Memoirs of a Gate. Well, no, that was the opposite, but a lot of movies where that is a central part of the story that I've seen. And it's interesting every time to kind of see how they talk about it and learn more about. And this was just obviously a very dark um, area of that event in history. This is a particularly brutal one, and that was one of the most interesting parts of the movie for me was learning about it. But there were a lot of like I enjoyed the movie, but it definitely wasn't perfect. I thought the weakest aspect of the film was definitely the screenplay. I thought it was the character development at points just kind of wasn't there for a lot of it.
It was the casting of Paul Schneider.
Yeah, that was random as he came and
Yeah.
went from this as fast as he did in Parks and
He
Rec.
looked like
Um,
so out of place too. Like when I looked at his face, I was like, you do not even look like you should be Christian Bale's friend. Like you look like you should be in a New York deli
that's
somewhere. Like I know he's trying to get
yeah.
out of there, but still.
Mm,
Like,
pretty much. And yeah, that's kind of his knack, his thing, I guess, that he has a knack for is being kind of out of place in something and then leaving very quickly and nobody remembers he was in it. But yeah. I forget constantly that he was even in Parks and Rec for 2 seasons, but um yeah, but again, yeah, a lot of the character development kind of wasn't great. And there were things where I'm like, I kind of wish they had expanded on more. And a lot of things where I'm like, okay, you kind of waited a little late to finally get into this. And they were trying at parts. And like Christian Bale's character was kind of like, I don't know. It was just I really loved the story of like him being this drunken louse at first, who's just very selfish, and him gradually coming to care more and more for the kids and the girls and just
When he shaves, that was a very impactful when
yeah,
you see him
yeah.
again.
I
And
thought it was nice to see, but then every now and then they just kind of offset it with a weird scene of him being a little too jovial again, where I'm just like, okay, because like right after that incredibly brutal scene where they raid the church and are trying to like attack the girls, you see him really for the first time step up and try to save them, and you see emotion from him, and it was very moving, and I really liked it. But then like right afterwards it cuts to him kind of being more like his old jovial self, like, oh yeah, I can't fucking do it, I'm drunk as often as possible, and just laughing and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, it just feels kind of like it just didn't feel tonally consistent to me. It felt a little strange. Just to see him kind of immediately revert back to that personality. And there were a couple other scenes where that happened and it was a little weird, but the moments where he does step up and does like that scene where he's negotiating with the Japanese colonel to try to stop them from having to go to the ceremony that they're going to go. Like that was great. The tension in that scene was very real. I
cat
really
coming out
liked, say what?
with the cat coming out and her.
Yeah, that was just let the cat. They're not gonna give a shit if the cat's just running around, man. Like she was so stupid coming out, but it was very tense, and it was very good to see him step up and kind of take charge and be in that position. Um, and also just the thing that took me off guard the most, that was one of my favorite parts of the film, was the prostitutes all having such a complete 180, where at first they're just as spoiled and as mean and as just kind of bitchy as can be, and to see them go from that to ultimately sacrificing themselves for the girls in the end, and being willing to make that choice, that was very moving, that was very powerful. I thought that was very, but even then there were moments where they offset it, where it's like we have this emotional scene where they're deciding to, we're going to sacrifice ourselves and this is the choice we must make. And then the next scene is them like, talking about how big their boobs are and like, saying like, oh, maybe we can wrap them down, and just kind of, I was like, this again seems very jarring, like a kind of a weird tonal shift. Like, I don't know. But for the most part, yeah, I thought it was very effective at what it was trying to do, even if the script was lacking substance a bit in certain areas. It still did what it was trying to do, which was, you know, taking these characters on a journey of redemption, which was, I thought, satisfying, and showing just the utter horrific brutality of the situation. They did that very well. I mean, the whole.
The kid, the boy that was there the whole time,
Mhm.
his storyline was one of my favorites, and his like you get like backstory as to his relationship with the priest that Christian Bale shows up there to bury, and how he has opinions about all these things that are going on, and then in the end when he's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself to save at least one of these people because I can pretend to be one of the schoolgirls and all that kind of stuff. Like I really enjoyed his character and his sacrifice and his purpose that he discovers within the whole story. And that's where I think when the story does like click and go really well, his was part of that story that I've really gelled with.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the more definitely interesting characters in the movie. I liked his constant presence, and that was something I didn't see coming. I didn't think, I kind of said it jokingly, like about 3 seconds before he said it. I was just like, oh yeah, let him go in their place or whatever. And then he said it, and I was like, what? Like they're actually gonna do that? And yeah, that was honestly just like, because it was nice, because again, I mean, I did kind of take issue with that a little bit, just because I was like, wait a second. He like he's a kid too. Like he's the same age as the girls. Like the
Yeah.
whole point here is we're trying to save the children. I'm like, just because he's a boy, his life isn't worth as much as theirs. Like he gets to sacrifice himself, but they can't. I kind of took issue with that slightly. But what I
I
did
definitely
like
wrote
about it was, you know, he was trying to, because he said that the former priest gave him one job, which was to protect the girls, and that's what he was trying to step up and do. And he just wanted to be able to do that. And I appreciated that. Like just from a character development standpoint, like he was fulfilling the promise he made, and it was
Yeah.
very sad and emotional in that sense. And I appreciated even though I thought it was a little weird, I appreciated really what they were trying to go for with that. And just seeing him kind of make the choice to make that sacrifice was moving for sure. But Matt, what did
And
you think?
oh,
I thought it was great. I mean, 90% of the stuff with that you guys have said, I agree with, and or was like, yeah, that was in my head too. Um, I really like the like I don't want to say action shots because it's really just people getting murdered, but I really like the way they did that with the color in certain scenes, especially with the church, like the window pane. There were some shots where they were standing outside of that, and there was just like really nice color. Um, and I thought it was like it was almost like, again, like I said, there's just like, it's people getting massacred, but it's almost like super slow mo, like well done. Like the shot where the one girl is getting raped in the church, and then it's just like the sniper shooting him through the window, and you just see like the slow mo of the bullet, right, and then bam, just hits his fucking head, and you're like, am I watching a drama or like like, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that, so I did enjoy them.
Well, that's kind of from what I read into it, it seems like that's why some critics didn't like this, is they thought it was a little too stylized and a little too, and then it kind of took away from the real life like horrors. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think it got the horror of the situation across very strongly. I
yeah,
mean, from the
we all
beginning.
find the green grass, handheld, running around, following the people
Mhm.
stuff to be serious, don't we?
Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yes and no.
Okay, because like I was like, I can agree with that statement, but also I don't feel like I should, like, I don't feel like it's me up to.
Yeah. But no, I mean that's one way to do it. The Paul Greengrass way is one way to do it, and this is another way to do it. I definitely did not think this was like overly stylized. I thought it did a very good job of capturing the complete and utter brutality of the situation. And yeah, like kind of the same as you, Matt. Like I hesitate to call them action shots because but it kind of that is kind of what I want to call, like I guess I would say more the battle scenes where like because that opening scene where the Chinese soldiers are trying to fight off the Japanese and like that epic battle they have at the beginning, that was incredibly well done, I thought. The scene where that was the craziest shit I've ever seen when that guy rolls under the fucking tank and blows it up. That was so crazy. I thought all those scenes were very well done. Yeah, the whole sequence where they're trying to kill the sniper guy, so well done. But yeah, it was definitely, I thought, very effective at getting that across. And that like that plus, again, the even if the character development wasn't super strong on the page, I do think the performances of the actors, and just like it's one of those movies where it's kind of similar to a movie that's out right now, the new Captain America, where it's like, is that like that movie's a movie where I'm just kind of like, okay, there are a lot of problems here writing wise, a lot of issues. I acknowledge a lot of this on the page just doesn't work, but I'm invested in what's going on, like to the point where I'm entertained. And it's kind of like the same here where I'm like, yeah, I understand that this could use a bit more depth in a lot of places, but I'm genuinely very invested in the story. I was very invested in them getting out of the city alive. I was very invested in the prostitutes like sacrificing themselves. I was invested the whole way through. I was very much in suspense. I cared about the characters. So it's like that's all you can ask for, really. And so
That all their lives were worth was just a case of wine.
but yeah, ultimately, I would say, well, I don't know if it was a great time. It was a very disturbing time, but it was a good, entertaining movie that was also extremely dark and fucked up. Um,
The humor though was I really enjoyed it. Like there were times where they were just making jokes that I was like having a good time with the characters despite the over extremely laid on thick overlay of this is the most depraved
Yeah.
time of life for these people.
Um,
So
yeah, for sure. And just the brutality never stopped. You should have heard how loud the gasp was that came out of my mouth when they shot the dude at the end. Like I so didn't see that coming. I so was just like, oh my God, like that's just terrible. And just the actors, I gotta give credit to the actors playing the Japanese soldiers as well. Each and every one of them was just terrifying. I mean, just every time one of them, like, yelled an order at somebody, like you felt the tension. Like that one scene where Christian Bale is trying to come out of the church. And it's just like, get back inside, get back inside. Like you felt that. Like I felt that in my soul, Like the beginning when the one dude is chasing him through the street and he's covered in the powder and he's like, get your hands up. And he keeps shooting and like, I said, get your hand. Like every single, you were just
man,
terrified. So, say what?
the brick falling on top of him was when I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And his face, Christian Bale's face covered in that powder was just haunting.
And also, as is the case with pretty much all of Zhang Yimou's movies, gorgeous cinematography the whole way through. I thought it was just incredibly well shot because his movies usually look like paintings, so it's just like it's no surprise that it looked so good. And yeah, I thought it was very poignant, very sad. I definitely, even though at parts, again, like I said, it could have used a bit of punching up. I enjoyed it and thought, it would, well, again, not really necessarily a good time, but as much of a good time as a movie this fucking disturbing and brutal can be.
We're discovering what Jackson considers a good time.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the theme of this episode. Between me defending the fiance lady from Black Orpheus and me thinking that this is a good time. I guess we're and the one that I liked the least was the wholesome family friendly film. So I guess we're learning a lot.
Get shit out of here.
Fucking pussy shit. Get that out of here. So that does it for this week's episode of 3 for 3. We hope you all enjoyed. I know that we're walking a delicate line here because this is our first episode recorded since we kind of have seen some explosive growth on the channel, and thank you to everyone who's been helping with that. I think it's a delicate line we're walking that the first one we do is the one where we've made about 80,000 jokes about rape in the episode, but I think maybe we'll lose some subscribers because of that, but hopefully you'll stick around anyway, but
Do not condone rape.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
We do, however, condone the stoning of your fiance for cheating on you.
Yeah, that's again,
100%
as
okay.
a fellow
And we
Orpheus killer,
condone.
she did no wrong, as far as I'm concerned.
I
Oh, that's a
couldn't.
joke. Don't kill your fiance.
Yeah, I was gonna-
Don't kill your fiance
Nice.
with stones. That's not acceptable.
I'll kill him with a bayonet.
Oh, there you go. That's okay.
Yep.
Or, no one died in the other one, so I can't say anything about that because it's a
Get
Disney
a
film.
yeah.
Still
Collection.
drop-
Eat a loud ass sandwich when they piss you off. There you go. Eat a loud ass sandwich.
Make sure you got your
There you go.
cheese.
So no one has to die that way.
Yes.
But yes, thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week for what I think will be a very entertaining episode. Stay tuned for that one. And we'll catch you all next time.
Sayonara.